Okay, Padmaji, please share your clarity about the Adhikari and the Atma Tattva Viveka chapters.
Yeah. Yeah, so first of all, okay, I came to Tattva Bodha. I wanted to learn this because even after doing the Gita study, somewhere, although you understand a lot of various aspects, your duties and how to live, Krishna has given guidance, but still, you keep asking like, who am I? Who am I? And after reading many things, I thought maybe this will bring some clarity, because we may not have answers to many things, questions that we are asking. So through this Tattva Bodha, I think a lot of guidance has come to me. And through the sharing of all the your own experiences of this group, also it has given me a lot of clarity. So first of all, in Tattva Bodha, like Sir had described earlier, there are two aspects. So who is entitled to, or what are the qualifications to know about this scripture itself is, one is fourfold qualifications, and out of the fourfold qualifications, first one is viveka. Viveka is discrimination. Discrimination of what? Discrimination of what is changing and what is unchanging, or rather what is unreal and what is real. So from what we understand is, from what I understand is, everything around us is constantly changing, whether it's our body, whether it's our subtle body, and whether it's our world, and even the people around us, whether it is immediate family or the rest of the world that we interact with. Every single thing is changing every day, every minute, every second, probably. So that is the changing part of our life. The unchanging is the witness, which is not changing. For example, one of the best example for that is, if we visualize our try to recollect our life from our childhood till now, there is one person who is seeing all this aspect. How I was when I was 3 years old, how I was when I am 20 years old, and how I am right now. There is one constant person in this who is witnessing all this. So that is the real me, is what I get to understand. But again, how do I go to that? Because that is not clearly visible to me, because for us it is all what we see is what we believe. That is how our world is. So from that, but when we start to discriminate between the real and unreal, slowly I think we start developing a vairagya or detachment. So detachment, how does it help us is in seeing that mostly our changing and unchanging world, all this, we are also coming into contact with lot of things in which our search for happiness drives us to various things, collecting of things, and how we interact with others in this world and with ourselves. So necessarily our constant search is for one thing, which is happiness. So if we are able to discriminate what is real and what is unreal, then probably the suffering, whether it is happiness or whether it is sadness or disappointments, all these things will not be there, because we are able to detach ourselves and look at it from the self point of view, rather than getting into all the situations and going with that flow. Second thing is, whatever we achieve in life, ego takes the credit for it. So I mean, ideally, I feel that ego is the one that is a kind of stopping us from recognizing our own self. So when we go further into this, now I will come to the question of what is Satya, Mithya, and Asatya. So in this world, everything, what is Mithya is everything is Mithya. Everything is unreal, including our world, our body, or anything that is unchanging and unreal. Sorry, changing and unreal is Mithya. What is Satya? Satya is I am only Satya. That is the only thing, or consciousness, which is unchanging in all these aspects. Whatever I'm going through, whatever situation I am in, there is one unchanging in that, which is Satya. And Asatya is something which is non-existent. For that, I think Prabhuji gave one very good example of a rabbit having a horn, or things like that, which we cannot see also. So that is Asatya. Then next comes the three body. Now, how do I realize, how do I go to the fact that I am not the body, I'm not this mind, I'm not the intellect? We say the prayer, but how do I know that? Or how do I understand it for myself? Is how I see is the three bodies. First of all, we are not the three bodies. So the three bodies means the physical body, the subtle body, and the causal body. So the first one is the physical body, where we are composed of all the 5 elements. So we are not this, because at the end of this journey, or probably when we finish this lifetime, the body is whatever is the funeral process of our respective cultures, the body is mixing back into the Panchatattva. So there is no continuity for this physical body. Not only at the end of this lifetime, but also every day our physical body is undergoing various changes. Minute by minute, the cells are dying, and again coming up. The blood is, changing every day. Probably that's why we physically, there is so much difference on how we feel on a day-to-day basis, which we can make out. Although every second changes are happening, probably for us, after a night, next day when we wake up, there is a visible change in our own body for us, in whatever way we experience it. So the physical body is experienced by the gross body, and also the subtle body. Subtle body is the place, again, we are not in the subtle body also, because subtle body again has a limitation, where the 5 sense organs, the organs of action, and the internal organs, where the mind, ego, intellect, and memory, all these are functioning. But again, we are not just this subtle body, because there are certain things which are happening beyond this subtle body, which we are not able to explain. Probably an existence of a disease, or some people that we come into contact. There are certain kind of experiences that are repetitive in our life. So essentially, a lot of things combined together is what we are experiencing, is I feel. It could be our past life, it could be our prarabdha karmas, and it could be what we are doing in the present lifetime as well. So again, we are not the subtle body. Coming to causal body, how do I say that I am not the causal body as well? Now, this was one of the, I think, challenging part for me, and it took me a while to understand that. So I will just tell my understanding of the causal body. So the causal body, again, in Guruji's talks, he says that it is the storehouse for all the whatever we experience through the subtle body as well. So we cannot see it ourselves, and there is no way to there is no way to find out, because it has no beginning, and we can't remember also when it has begun, and but it has an end. So ideally, one word to describe it will be, it is indescribable is something, and it is also an ignorance, or avidya is, it is called as avidya. So what does this avidya do is, it creates a feeling of incompleteness within us, and that incompleteness leads to a lot of desires within us, because of which we do our daily actions or karmas and expect a fruit from it. And then if the fruit is desirable, then we move on to the next desire. If the fruit is not desirable, then again it's like it's constant, like a cycle. It keeps on going, and this thing, until that ignorance is removed. So that is one thing. And then next is we are not the three states of, 1 second, sir. Yeah, so the three states of our experience, like the one is the Jagrata, the Swapna, and the Sushupta. So in Jagrata state also, the waking state, all our body functions, all our faculties are working, and it is basically the state where we have lot of exchange with our external world, which we can see, and which all the others also can see and experience. So it is a place of where everybody is interacting, basically, our gross world. If we go for the dream state, then dream state is something which we are internally experiencing. Again, there is a world there, but it is not, we are not interacting with it as such in a physical manner. So again, the experiencer here will be the subtle body in the dream state. And whereas the deep sleep state, the subtle body is also dormant. I think that is also one of the place where we can say that I am not the subtle body. That is also one of the place that I am not the where we can know I'm not the subtle body. So the deep sleep state is something which the causal body is experiencing. The experiencer here is the, because of the causal body, we experience a deep sleep state. It's a total self ignorance is there in that. And deep sleep state is probably the state where we don't remember anything next day, or we say that, wow, it was such a the good night's sleep, is how I understand the deep sleep state. And in this, because the subtle body is dormant, or it is non-existent per se, or we cannot experience the subtle body, I think there is a state of I can say, I mean, I feel after reading it that and experiencing deep sleep, that is probably the something like a blissful state, because you are not experiencing anything, whatever you are going through in your life, it is absent in that state. So that is how I see the deep sleep state. Then if I come to Avastha Traya Prakriya, in that the same, the who is the sleeper, who is the dreamer, and who is the waker. So one thing is, what I have understood from this is, when we look at the dream and the waking state. Now in the waking state, all our sense organs, everything is working. Whereas in the dreamer state, what is happening is the same consciousness is turning inward, I feel. So that is why there is no interaction with the outer world for us in that state. Although we have some experiences there in the dream state, as such, there is no interaction with the outer world. It is within ourselves, which is whatever is happening. Whereas in the deep sleep state, what is happening is there is bliss. There is bliss there. There is no feelings, no emotions, nothing is present. So there is complete bliss there. Is how I understand. Then next one is, are we the 5 Pancha Koshas? No, we are not the 5 Pancha Koshas also, because again, whether it is Annamaya Kosha or Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, all this has certain sense organs that are coming into play in all these, because of which we are calling that it is Annamaya Kosha. For example, Annamaya Kosha is physical, so basically it is all because of the food that we eat, the kind of food that we eat. So, and Pranamaya Kosha is because of the various, the way the prana moves and flows into our body. Manomaya Kosha is again because of all the thoughts, feelings, and emotions that we have. So it can be, again, all these things can be different for different people. Whereas we are looking for the Satya that is not changing for anybody. It is universal. So again, all these things are constantly changing. And one of the things that I have understood is, when we talk about Satya, or it is for everybody, it is universal. So how do I realize something which is universal? And I think only the ignorance part, or when we let go of the ego, when we put the ego down, then I think there is no question of finding the self. It is only the recognizing of the self. However, yes, how the world comes into picture and how we understand the world, I think in the further videos we'll be able to understand it better. So that is how much I have taken notes for. If anybody has any questions, or then I'll be able to, if I can answer. Yeah.
What is the importance of the Shat Sampati, Padmaji?
Yeah. So the Shat Sampati is basically the 6 qualities that we should have in ourselves. 1 second, sir. I'm going to that slide as well. I have it. It'll be easier for me to talk. Yeah. So in the Shat Sampati, essentially, how do we control our all the sense organs and other things that we have? First one is the mind control. So, and then the second one is the control of senses. So when we control the senses, what happens essentially is it helps us to move inwards, or turn our attention inwards, because essentially all our senses are driven to the outer world, to the outside. We keep searching, and the sense organs find their desires fulfilled only externally. Internally, there are no, desires for the self or anything. So it is all always directed towards the outside world. So when we control these senses, what happens is it helps our mind to turn the focus to inside of us. So the Shat Sampati is important because these are the things that we all have, and it is a constant. And I also feel that when we say control of senses, I think it is something which is happening at different levels, and it is an everyday thing. For example, for some people, some senses might be more dominant, some might be more interested in food, some might be more interested in acquiring things. So it is different for different people. So when we control those things, I think we start turning inwards. Also, when we start turning inwards, what happens is there is no, then we start to understand slowly that there is no duality. It is always, this freedom comes from that, because then you start seeing that there is no need to accumulate certain things to experience that bliss which you yourself are. So then that search for it outside kind of ends, and the search starts to, the journey within starts from there, is what I feel. So that is why the Shat Sampati is important. And when we have that, then we start developing, our own self. We start focusing on us, we start working on us. So then we start not finding faults in whatever is happening to us. We don't attribute it to the outside world or somebody connected to us and all that. We rather work on everything is to be worked on ourselves only. So that again kind of helps us in dealing with the world, and how we react to situations or how we act in situations is also determined by how we are in control of these Shat Sampatis, is what I feel, the valuable assets. Yeah.
Excellent. Can you also touch upon each of the Sampati, what each of the Sampati really means, and is it something that one needs to strive to develop, or how does it come about?
Okay, so the first one is mind control, or Shama. So mind control, I feel, for me, I have been, mind is actually what's a collection of thoughts and emotions and all this. So I feel that one of the things that has helped this initially is meditation, where to control the mind. The second thing is, now that we started doing the Nididhyasa, that is very helpful, because that is a time when for me personally, I feel my mind is very blank. there are no thoughts most of the time. So that is very helpful, because again it helps you to get established in what your true nature is. So you are not constantly, otherwise the mind is always thinking, or going towards something. Okay, what I have to do next, what happened yesterday, these kind of things are not there. And when we rest the mind, I think the thoughts also start purifying to a large extent, and there is a less of a struggle. Second is Dhamma, which is control of senses. So this control of senses is something I feel that we have to put a lot of effort in, as well as in mind control also. But I think once you are doing meditation, the mind control is a little bit okay. But control of senses is something, I think it is mostly evident when we are interacting with the outer world. So it is, there has to be an effort from our part to constantly realize that and get a control of it. For example, I think food is one such thing, because the body needs it as well. So you cannot completely also stop it, but mindfully you have to do it. So again, the mind comes into picture. So I think the Shama and Daba both are like interconnected as well, and both needs to be controlled. So one thing, just one control of one thing is not sufficient, is how I feel. And I think when you do the first two, Shama and Dhamma, I think the Titiksha, Uparati, Shraddha and Samadhana, the other four, I think it is relatively or comparatively, it is easier, I feel, because the first two are the one that is mainly operative in the external world for us, is what I feel. So like that, you get freedom from the when the senses and mind is controlled, you get certain amount of freedom from the dualities that create all these sufferings for us, is what I feel. And then once that is done, then like I said, that Nididhyasa is helping us focus on our higher self. So then there is no search for anything, or we are basically content. There is some contentment and fulfillment in however our life is. Then we don't question why this is happening, or why this is not happening, or why I don't have this, why that person has this. All these questioning stops, I think. And more acceptance is there in life generally of what we are going through, or whatever is happening. There is more acceptance. And also, I think it is easier for us to comprehend why other people also are like that. Within our family also, we have more acceptance, because we understand that, again, for them also, it is the same kind of, all of us have this same Shat Sampatis, all the same things. So everybody is going through their own journey. This aspect we understand. We understand better, although they are very close to us. It could be our husband, son, daughter, whoever it is, our parents. So we start understanding why they behave in such a way. And we also understand that if somebody has some lack of control in their senses, that also I think we are more empathetic towards it, because we understand that it is not easy to do that, because we ourselves are struggling. So I think essentially, I mean, it is not only the discovery of ourselves, but it is also like the whole way we interact with others is able to change because of our understanding of this. So we are not only helping ourselves, I think we are also helping people around us by letting them be however they are. Because most of the time, I think when we are in a role of a mother, father, then we have somewhere we start controlling how they think, whether it's by conditioning, or when they are small, we can even use other means to think that my way is right way, so your way also should be my way, or whatever. So those kind of things, I think we can have a check on that as well. And we let them be, because they have also their own journey, whoever it is, our children or husband, wife, whoever. So I think that understanding comes. And so there is, and then we also accept that there is something beyond all this, higher power. So you start having faith that no, whatever is coming to me, it's needed for me. I mean, there is a continuous progress in where I have to go, and my journey will. And this, if we want to break free also from this constant, how many lives and births we have taken, and so that those kind of things can be broken only if we are truly recognizing ourselves and get established in that. Yeah.
Very nice, Padmaji. And is Shraddha equivalent of belief? How would you describe and explain about Shraddha?
I think for me, I think Shraddha is basically, initially when I started, I think Shraddha was basically for me like I am separate from the higher forces. And so I believe that there is somebody else called God, and I need to, he is the one who can save me from this, that, and all that. So that kind of thing I had. But now I think the Shraddha for me will be like, it is a belief that I am part of, or I am a fragment of that higher self. So I can be that if I wish to. It's only the matter of recognizing it myself is how I feel. That because that infinite, I mean, if for a human mind, I think it's impossible to even imagine infinite. When we say that I am infinite, or during the Nididhyasa also, when Guruji says I'm infinite, there is nothing that comes to your mind which can tell you what is infinite. So I felt that is one word that has helped me more than any mantras to calm my mind, because when your mind goes in search of infinite, there is nothing to be found. So that is Shraddha for me, I think now. I don't know if there is any other meaning to it in this, but my understanding is that is what is Shraddha for me now. That to be a belief, a faith that I am that. So, and when I think that faith, when I have that I am that, then every action of yours, you start to like, look at it in a different way. Like, is this how a higher power will, function, or is this how, you have to react? Is this how, or can we just let go or let it be? That is something which helps me.
Excellent. So again, I just want to ask the question in a different way. Is Shraddha, that is faith, and belief one and the same, are different?
I think it is different, because belief can be about many things. You can have belief system is also essentially, some things come even from your conditioning. It is not restrictive to only your personal information you collect. A belief system also can be passed down through your family, or through, if you're going to a workplace, or there is a certain belief that this has to be done this way, that has to be done that way. I think faith is beyond all that. It is not necessarily, belief and faith are not the same.
So then, Shat Sampati, Sampati itself means that something to asset, it has to be developed. So then how do you develop a faith then?
That is what, initially for me, a faith was where I see myself and God as two different. God as somebody who can, I think the faith part itself, it comes from when there are some things in your life over which you don't have any control, it is happening, and then you look for solutions within a higher, somebody who can help you, somebody who is more better than you, that you look towards that person. And for me, initially, that was at the beginning of my journey. I think it was always like I would think, how would Krishna react in this? How would Krishna? So for me, he is the most highest, and the someone who can solve everything for me. That kind of thing it started for me. And then now slowly I feel that if he resides in my heart, then I am a fragment of him. Then why should I be any different? Okay, he what he is, I can be, and it's just a matter of recognizing it. Is how I see it now, because I am one with him, is what I feel.
Excellent.
So that is how I feel that I have, for me, that is how it has gone till now. I don't know from here where that, I mean, how it will go, but yeah, that is how I feel it. Shraddha for me is that.
Very well put, Padmaji, very well put. And one last question. So how do you relate the Shat Sampati to, these 3 days of Navaratri is also Mahalakshmi. Is there any relationship to this and that?
Yeah, I think when we look at Navaratri and all the forms of Durga, each form has certain weapons, each form has certain qualities to her. So I feel that through these weapons and through these qualities, she's actually trying to tell us what we need to control. And if we see, Shakti is the one, without Shakti, we cannot function in this world. Just because they both are one and the same, Shiva and Shakti, they have to be together for us to function efficiently in this world. So what I feel is, she is the one who's flowing through us, and at various places she is the controller of different things, is what I feel. And for example, I think when what I found is, normally I chant a lot. That kind of helps me. But when I did the Krishna chanting with Guruji, there was a different kind of vibration I felt at a different place in my body. For example, normally when I used to chant before, it would be like, I have to chant because that gives me some relief. But initially I am not very involved in the chanting. It is very, very basic, and I'm counting also, more focus on counting, whether I have missed the counts and all that. And then somewhere through mid chanting, I will be really, I feel that, okay, now it's not about counting. I've lost count of what I'm doing, but I'm more involved in the process. But when I did the Hare Krishna chanting with Guruji, it was so beautiful, because he said one beautiful thing, that connect to the devotee of that God rather than the God itself. And that was so beautiful, because what we experience and what we hear, because we have no experience of seeing God yet. So for us, the devotee and how they prayed, each devotee is so unique and so special to the Lord. When we ask the devotee for the guidance, that what devotion you had, you give it to me, I think that kind of changed the way you see chanting itself. So, I felt that without Guruji's guidance, that would not have been possible. So, that is one way. And when you say for Ma Durga, it is, I think, she is also the various forms that we see. And if we see all these stories of how she has destroyed all these demons, so these demons are nothing but within us only. The story is, I mean, if we read it as a story, there are some Rakshasas by this name, that name, and she has destroyed them, and she used this weapon, that weapon. But basically, I feel that this is all for these same demons, they are all within us only. The ignorance, the Mahisha, the buffalo head, everything is within us. And it is basically these 9 nights when we are taking sattvic food, when we are observing certain chantings and certain prayers. I think it essentially cleanses us in different ways. And the cleansing, wherever we need it, it can be different for different people. So wherever the cleansing is needed, I think the cleansing happens there. And that is how I see the Navaratri. And then the same thing, I mean, when we partake of sattvic food and all, our mind is not so, I don't know how to put it. The thoughts are better. You are not, you are not the balance of that sweetness, all this is not there in your body, imbalance. And so there is a balance within our body at different levels, whether it is the physical body or this. So the mind is, we are able to control the mind better. The senses are also controlled. All these things are happening because of that.
Very nice, Padmaji. Very well. Others, do they have questions on any of the topic that Padmaji has said? So the intention of this discussion is so that, now Padmaji is our guru. So she is the one, who has taught us about, by reading through Tattva Bodha, what she has realized. And all of us are now listening to her and we're asking questions, not to probe her, not to check her understanding, but more so that, it opens the dialogue and it opens within us the clarity. So any questions on what she has discussed so far, on the Adhikari and also on the Atma Tattva Viveka?
Sir, I have one question as well, which I came across while putting together this yesterday. One thing is, when we talk about the Pancha Koshas, right? If you can go to that slide. No, sir, it's down, I think. Yeah, that's the circular one. No. Yeah. So in this, if you look at Anandamaya Kosha, right?
Yeah.
So in this, I mean, you are mentioning about the causal is the experiencer, right? The causal body, is it mentioning that it's causal body, or how have you written it there?
Yeah, so the Anandamaya Kosha is also referred as the causal body.
Yeah, so my question is, like, when we say that Anandamaya Kosha is essentially like bliss, right? But we say that we are not even that, right? So that is one of my question. I always thought first that Anandamaya Kosha is what we are, is what I thought first. So because it is essentially talking about the bliss of being in the self and all that. So, but I saw the word reflects, and then I thought, okay, if we are not even Anandamaya Kosha, there is something else beyond that, which is either it is not it cannot be put into word, like that infinite word, or something like that. I thought about that. So if you can speak about that a little bit, it will be good. Or anybody else also, either Satyaji or anyone who would like to talk about.
Let's listen to others also first, and then we will let us summarize.
Yeah.
So let's frame the question clearly. The question is, so bliss, it is said that your true nature is Sat, Chit and Ananda. So Ananda means bliss. So which means that that is your true nature. Then this is Anandamaya Kosha. Oh, so then this must be who I am. But here it is being referred as, it is a causal body, and this is not also who I am. Then what is this? How to relate to this? So these are
actually, when I wrote Satchit Ananda, I always write Ananda as I am infinite. Rather than I am bliss, I write I am infinite. So that is how I use it. Yeah. So I exist, I am consciousness, and I am infinite. That is how for me, I personally interpret it, not to go by the exact meaning of the word. So that is when I thought that, okay, then infinite is something which I cannot comprehend with my mind. So maybe the next word, if I have to come close, is bliss. And then it says that it's a reflection of the bliss. It's not even the bliss of the self. So that is what I wanted to understand.
Sure. So, yeah, so let's connect these two. Yeah.
Yeah. Padmaji, this infinite is Ananta, and it is Ananda. So I guess it's a difference between Ananta and Ananda. Ananda is bliss, happiness, and connected to Ananda, Moda, Pramoda, and such words have been used in Anandamaya Kosha. When it comes to Satchit, Satchit Ananda only we tell. I am the existence. So after realizing this, you get bliss. That bliss is infinite. When we are connected to the self is connected to the ultimate Brahman. So Ananta is infinite. When we are defining Brahman, no, that is there is no end. That is infinity. After when we all understand all these concepts, Sharira Avastha, Trayam, Panchakosha, and using this Shat Sampati, four folds and everything, no, once we start connecting ourselves inwards, then we will get that Ananta Ananda. That is how I understood Vijay ji.
Yeah, but her question, Priya ji, is Anandamaya Kosha is also referred as the bliss body.
Yes, causal body.
So if your inherent nature is bliss, but here we are also saying that I am none of the Panchakoshas, which means that I am also not the Anandamaya Kosha. So how to resolve this contradiction? Because if you hear what she said, in the beginning, she started thinking that, okay, my true nature is bliss. So Anandamaya Kosha. But here we are even negating the Anandamaya Kosha.
Correct.
How that is the contradiction that she wants to resolve.
I am asking now.
Any
I just concentrated on Ananda and Ananta. So
True.
that
yeah.
this thing. Yeah, she is true. Like Anandamaya, when that is also experiencing, and your word said she reflects bliss of self. So something else should be there after also negating this Anandamaya.
Yeah. So then how do you...
I think it is merging of ourself with Brahman, universal.
Okay.
Then it then we'll have that self-realization. No, that is only Tattva Viveka. After everything we say that this is not Panchakosha, Avastha Trayam, everything. So what ultimately is focused is ultimate Brahman, that is the self.
True.
So this bliss nature may reflect ultimate Brahman.
Yeah, but see, if you look at the Panchakosha Prakriya, Annamaya, the physical body, what we see from outside, clearly we can see that it is constantly changing, and I am the observer of the change. So I can clearly eliminate. I can clearly say that, yeah, I seem to be functioning through this, but I am definitely not this, because it is constantly changing. I'm aware of the change. So through that, you can clearly say, okay, Annamaya Kosha, I have it, but I am not it. Similarly, Pranamaya Kosha, you can clearly negate it, because prana is also changing, constantly changing. And that is where, we have also given the examples of the superimposition. When we use in our sentences, I am fat, it's actually reference to the body, the self being superimposed on the body and wrongly being said as I am fat. Dehatma buddhi. The Atman is superimposed on the Deha and referred, oh, I am fat. However, if you really have to speak properly, this body is fat, this body is young, this body is male, this body is female. That is how we should be talking. However, we have gotten used to the I am fat. So there is a superimposition. The I is being superimposed on something that it is not and being referred as that.
Okay.
So that is how the Annamaya Kosha is. So we can clearly resolve that, because you can clearly watch it as changing. Similarly, Pranamaya Kosha. You can see, sometimes there is less energy, there is more energy, And as the emotions change, there is variations. So various kinds of changes in the energy is also happening. So if changes are happening, someone must be aware of the change. So I am none of the changes. Okay, so then I am also not the Pranamaya Kosha. So what is Pranamaya Kosha? It is not seen by the senses, but it is something that you can clearly become aware of its existence by the nature of how the energies are changing in the body. Through the body, you can experience that. So that is the Pranamaya Kosha. And you can also clearly negate the Pranamaya Kosha. So then comes the Manomaya Kosha. What is Manomaya Kosha? Even more subtler. It is nothing but the thoughts and the feelings and the emotions. And that is the one, which is the master of all the sense organs. And that also clearly you can see that it is changing. Why? Because the emotions or the feelings and the thoughts are not the same all through. They constantly keep appearing and disappearing. You're not always feeling sad. Sometimes, you feel differently. You're not always feeling angry. So like that, you can clearly see that something is coming and going. And where it is coming and going, that body, we are calling it as Manomaya Kosha. And that also we can negate. Oh, I am not that. How? Because I am not the changing, but that is changing. I am the one who is aware of the change. So using that simple logic, that simple viveka, what is changing, what is not changing, I can negate the Manomaya also. Then the decisions, the intellect or the intelligence or the buddhi is also part of the manas only, one of the function of the manas. But here it is being given a body, the name of a body, Vijnanamaya Kosha. You can remember, these are not like distinct things. This is only through our viveka that, we are distinguishing.
Yes.
So there is a ability to make decisions. When contradictory information is coming or when conflicting information is coming, which one to choose, on what basis to choose. Like this very simple viveka of changing, unchanging, something in us has to decide. Yeah, this is changing. Correct, this is not changing. How can I be the change? That is the nature of the intellect. The nature of the intellect is to incisively, very, very incisively, very sharply look at aspects and distinguish. Like how they say the Hamsa Nyaya. The Hamsa is able to separate the water from the milk. Yeah. So it separates water from the milk. It is not a physical separation, but a separation in the way you are able to see that clarity. So this aspect is the Vijnanamaya Kosha. And this also we can clearly negate. How you are able to see the operations of your intellect. So like that, systematically, these 4 layers can be negated. Means what? Oh, I am not this. I am functioning through this, but I am not this. Now her question is, similarly, what is Anandamaya Kosha and how to negate Anandamaya Kosha is the essential nature of the question that Padmaji is asking. Would you agree, Padmaji?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. So now let us share our views. How can we negate Anandamaya Kosha? How can I say that I am not the Anandamaya Kosha?
Or is it the transition from Dehatma Buddhi to Atma Bhava, what you have written here?
That is the process.
Process.
That is the process. See, the process is through Jnana. See, now what we did now, we kind of systematically eliminated. Oh, I am not this. Oh, I am not this. All this is, how are we doing? Using the Jnana. What Jnana? The Atma Anatma Tattva Viveka. What is changing, what is not changing? What is real, what is not real? Using that Viveka, we have started separating. So now you've so far separated successfully Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, because those are a lot more simpler in the sense of, you can see their operations. Now, similarly, we need to get clarity about the Anandamaya Kosha. And that is the essential nature of her question. Her question is stemming from what is truly Anandamaya Kosha with reference to the Pancha Kosha Prakriya is what we need to understand.
Got it, sir.
No, I mean, same logic can be applied to even that. See, who is experiencing the Ananda? It should be someone else, right? If you moment to talk about an experience, there should be an experiencer. So therefore, it should be different to the state itself.
Very good. But then why is it called ignorance body? How do you see? Because this was also the fundamental question you also had. How do you call it as ignorance body, and how do you become aware of it?
So essentially, how I look at this is the Ananda is coming is largely because of the ignorance, not because of the not because of the Gyan. So of course it reflects the Ananda, it reflects the bliss, but that is not that. So that need to be something else than that state, right? So yeah, therefore it is not that, because it's another layer. It's a place where you experience something. So experiencer is someone else.
So what you're saying is the subtle body where you experience the Ananda at various levels. That's why there is Priya, Moda, Amoda, Pramoda. This is an experience. Annamaya is a physical. You're seeing the thought process happening somewhere. That is what your Manomaya Kosha is. You can see the decision happening within you, and that you call as Vijnanamaya. Similarly, that subtle place where Ananda is experienced is what you are referring as Anandamaya Kosha.
Correct.
Excellent. Then why is this called a causal or an ignorance body?
I mean, I feel the Ananda is coming largely because of ignorance there, because you are not aware. I mean, this refers to essentially the Karana Sharira, or deep sleep state, where you can experience it. So it is coming largely because of the ignorance, or you are not aware of anything, or lack of any other thing like Annamaya, Pranamaya, etc.
Rather than saying that ignorance is coming because of, or Ananda is coming because of ignorance, your true nature is radiating. And why it is called as ignorance? Because you are not yet completely aware that I am the Atman. And the bliss is radiating from Atman. But I experience that reflection on this surface. So therefore, and this surface is, as long as it is ignorant, that I am the Deha and I am the Manas, that is why till then it is the body of ignorance. But the Ananda is not coming because of this body. Ananda is radiating from within, but this body is where I, like, how you put it, is where I experience it.
Yeah. So I mean, possibly like I'm just putting it very lightly, like as the temperature increases as you go towards the sun, you are feeling more. I mean, the Ananda is there everywhere. It is not only in the Anandamaya Kosha, but it is more experienced in the Anandamaya Kosha.
Again, we should not have a physical interpretation of these sheets or these koshas. For the sake of, like the Hamsakshira Nyaya, it's only through the intellect. All this separation is for the intellect. It is not that, there is an Anandamaya Kosha which is right around the self, and then, we have a intellectual body around that. It is not like that. That is why the representation, if you see, the self is in and beyond also. It is all pervading. But what is being referred as ignorance is the fundamental ignorance that I am the mind and I am the body. The content of my mind is who I am, and this body is who I am. That ignorance is referred as the causal body here, the fundamental ignorance. And that ignorance, whenever that ignorance, for example, that ignorance is the one which makes us seek things. I have to get this much money to be happy. Let's say I get some money. Then for that time being, when I hold that money in my hand, the feeling of lack that I don't have that money, I lack something, that feeling for some time goes away. Then I feel very happy. And now I wrongly connect that happiness to, oh, the money gave me happiness. But what truly happened? I don't have it, I lack it. That lack was for some time away. So it is actually the lack that is making me feel miserable. I don't have something, I lack something, I am incomplete. That is what is referred as the ignorance body. That is the causal body. I lack something. Because causal body means what? Is the one which causes something else to happen. What is the cause of our actions? Until the jnana completely radiates, the cause of the action is, I need to do this, I want to do this, I have to get this, because I will be happy. Because of that objective logic, I will get something and then I will become happy. Because of that wrong understanding, because of that wrong jnana, that whole wrong jnana about who I am, about what life is, about my relationship to others, that entire wrong clarity is put as causal body. Why? Because that is the cause of all the actions in the world. So, but that is also called as a bliss body. Why? Because it is through that body only that we experience. Because that body only is the one which also causes the stoppage of the bliss to radiate all the time. It is like, we all know this little story. There's a lady seeing the neighbor always, do some work, and she's always complaining to her husband. Look at that neighbor, how dirty their house is. They have not, don't they have any sense? Like that, she 2-3 days she complains. One day, her husband tells her, wait, I'll show you something else. He goes and cleans the window of her house. And now she says, oh, wow, what happened? So it was all along her window that was not clean. So that awareness is what is being brought here in the Anandamaya Kosha. That it is my ignorance, that meaning the ignorance that I am this. That is what is stopping the bliss to radiate. And there are moments of that reflection. Oh, I got a promotion. Oh, I'm very happy. I felt so nice when my child was born. Oh, when I got married, oh my God, no words to describe. So like that, we start seeing glimpses of it. Small windows, glimpses of it. When that ignorance is for the time being kept aside. But as clarity emerged, no. I still am wrongly attributing the feeling of that happiness to, I got it, so I became happy. So the ignorance is still continuing. That is why the only pill which can completely dissolve this is jnana from the realized master. And there, that I am the deha and that I am this manas, that I am this intellect, all these layers by layers has to be dissolved. And that final dissolution is the causal body. And that is why it is also referred as the Anandamaya Kosha. Till the Jiva Buddhi is there, it is a body of ignorance. And once when that ignorance has dropped, then for that matter, all the sheets, whether it's Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, or Anandamaya, all the sheets are nothing but self only. So there is no separation then. Then it is the Shiva and the Shakti. It's all the play of the Shakti, and it is the consciousness which is the watcher of the play. Padmaji, is this discussion bringing clarity?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Is there
So
anything
you
else?
you answered one another question also, because I was going to ask you, like it is said that the causal body has an end, although it doesn't have a beginning, it has an end. So I was going to ask you that question, but you addressed that as well here. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Prakash ji.
All right.
No problem, Padmaji.
Is there anything else that anybody likes to bring up around this topic? All right. So I think thank you very much, Padmaji. Wonderful clarity and some of the questions that you brought. So we will continue in this same way. I think our next one is Satyaji, no? So Satyaji, you'll be presenting your clarity next session.
Yes, Vijayji.
Yeah. So we will have like this, one by one, and then only we'll get back to our continuation of the Tattva Bodha studies. I hope this is okay with everyone.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Actually, it is good.
Wonderful.
Sir, I
Varunji,
had one question. Sorry.
Yeah.
So when we start the contemplation again, we start from video 10 of Prabhuji, right? Day 10.
that is correct. Yeah. The
Okay.
Jagat Utpatti,
Okay.
the origin of the world.
Yeah.
Varunji, is this all helping?
Yes, sir. Very greatly, it's helping me to understand. Despite missing all the initial classes, I'm able to get good clarity. Although the word causal body is a little hazy for me, but I will go over the videos and try to understand. And if I still don't understand, I'll bring it up in the next class.
Certainly. Please do that. Yeah. All right. Then let us end our today's session with Varunji, will you please lead us through the closing prayers also?
Yes, sure. Thank you. Right seeking. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead me from untruth, ignorance to truth, darkness to light, impermanence, which is death, to permanence, which is immortality. Self is the whole. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamuduchyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om, that is complete. This is complete. When completeness is removed from completeness, what remains is also complete. When completeness is added to the completeness, totality remains complete. Om, peace, peace, peace. Who am I? Nanu, Nanembudu, Nanalla, Ideha Manabuddhi Nanalla Sachidanandatma Shivananunane Shivoham Shivoham Shivoham. I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm not the intellect, I'm pure consciousness, Shiva Swarupi. Shivoham Shivoham Shivoham. Atmadarshanam Brahmadarshanam Brahmadarshanam Satyadarshanam. Recognizing the self is recognizing God, whole, sorry. Recognizing the whole is recognizing the truth.
No need to be sorry. Usually God means wholeness.
Okay, sure. Yeah, Mrityunjaya mantra. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanat Mrityor Mukshiya Mamratat. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanat Mrityor Mukshiya Mamratat. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanat Mrityor Mukshiya Mamratat. We worship the three-eyed one who is fragrant and who nourishes all. Like the fruit falls off from the bondage of the stem, may we be liberated from death, from mortality. Lokaah samastah sukhino bhavantu. Lokaah samastah sukhino bhavantu. Lokaah samastah sukhino bhavantu. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Varunji. Thank you all.
Hari Om, everyone.
Hari Om. See you all
Hari
next
Om.
Sunday morning. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Thank you, sir.
Hari Om.